I'm certainly supportive of what your bill is trying to do for our water and sewer authorities. Follow up, Representative Carney.
Well, I mean, I'm going to support your bill, but I'm just curious as to how many are we going to continue adding with permanent plates? Right. I know that several years back, we looked at that issue, and I'm looking over to staff, that where we were trying to cut back on right. so many of those permanent tags, and you probably remember that.
I do remember that.
So I was just asking, so this is statewide, any water or sewer authority can go to permanent
right.
tags.
And this would go to finance, which I'm sure we'll have a report on that at finance, but.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Cleveland.
I want to speak on the bill. I too remember back when we first took over that the mess that permanent tags were across the state. Across the United States, we found out people in other states were driving on our tags. And we took action and we cleaned it up. And here's another example of undoing what the General Assembly did to solve a problem. And it's not only in this area, we've done it in other areas in the past 10 years. We're building a problem for a future General Assembly to solve. I can't support this.
Any other comments or questions? Representative Adams.
Is there a fiscal note yet? Do we have a fiscal note on the bill?
Not yet. I'm sure they'll have one before it goes to finance, but.
Thank you.
If it goes. Any other questions or follow-ups? Do I hear a motion from someone?
Just a comment. I'm going to support the bill at this point and let it get to finance. I make a motion to approve House Bill 436 with a referral to finance.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Bill carries. The ayes have it. Thank you, Representative Faircloth. Now we're going to hear House Bill 473. Representative Davis so patiently has been waiting for us over there. But this is a simple bill, isn't it, Representative Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, what this bill does, under Section 20-4.01 of our general statutes, definition of passenger vehicles, a low-speed vehicle, that definition is presently a four-wheeled electric vehicle whose top speed is greater than 20 miles per hour but less than 25 miles per hour. What this bill does, it changes the definition to include a gasoline engine so that the new definition of a low-speed vehicle would be a four-wheeled vehicle that is either electrically powered or propelled by a gasoline engine whose top speed is greater than 20 miles per hour but less than 25 miles per hour. I know of no opposition, and I ask for your support, Mr. Chairman.
Any question? Representative Hawkins.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Thank you for bringing forth this bill. It does seem simple, but just as some of us were engaging it, can you give us some examples of what this includes? Now, and I know that it's sort of depending on where you're from, and some people drive their tractors on the road, some people drive their lawnmowers on the road, some people have golf carts. I mean, talk to us about sort of what the listing of the ones that will be added are, and then why we need the classification.
Sure. Well, first off, a low-speed vehicle can only be operated on a street or a highway where the speed limit is 35 miles an hour or less. Quite frankly, the reason I was asked to do this was a guy has a gas-powered golf cart. And he says, well, my neighbors have electric golf carts and they can ride. Why can't I do mine with a gas? I said, well, we'll fix that. So that's basically the rationale behind introducing the bill.
Motion at the appropriate time.
Yes, sir. The only comment I'll make is a lot of retirement communities have those vehicles. Mm-hmm. So I'm close to that anyway.
Yeah, but they don't go as fast as 35 miles an hour.
Representative Hawkins for a motion.
There is no PCS on this bill, correct? Just making sure.
No PCS, none.
No, okay. Motion for a favorable report on this bill with the referral to rules calendar and operation of the House.
All right, all in favor, aye? Likewise, motion carries. Representative Davis, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Okay, now we're going to hear HB 468. And that has a PCS, so before us, motion for approval of the PCS.
Motion.
Thank you, Chairman McNeely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. This is a bill, thanks to Representative Hardister, Faircloth, and Quick, who filed this bill. It's a joint request from the Greensboro City Council and the Greensboro Police Department to do a pilot program. They have a group study trying to decrease traffic incidents, especially around our schools, and this pilot program would allow electronic speed measuring in 3 school zones that the school system and police department decide together for a 3-year pilot. Thank you.
Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion at the appropriate time.
Any questions from the committee? Representative Pless.
If I remember correctly, last year we had one for Durham County, and I believe it was defeated. What happened with that one?
That's a really good question. No, it was not defeated. It made it through 2 committees, and we just decided to pull the bill for further, wait until next year to get further on it. So it didn't lose in committee though.
Follow up. Representative Adams.
Yeah, explain, now, is this going to be something that would photograph vehicles that are speeding, or how does this work? Explain it to me, please.
My understanding is that there would be a camera just in this school zone that would, and it would have to have a conspicuous, I believe is the language in the bill, letting people know, and it would capture camera by camera in just the school zones.
So it's going to be triggered by radar? Is that the way it's going to work?
That is my understanding, though I do not proclaim to be an expert on camera traffic strategy, so I'm happy for staff.
Kellett Wade, Legislative Analysis. The way that electronic speed measuring systems are defined in this bill is that it consists of an automatic traffic camera and sensor capable of measuring speed and producing 1 or more digital photographs of a motor vehicle violating the speed limit. So it would have a sensor to pick up on the vehicle and produce a photograph of the vehicle.
Follow up.
So is there anything that's going to govern whether or not there are children present in the school zones or not? I mean, this is just going to be something that's going to be, I'm sure would have a timestamp and things of that nature, but I'm very reluctant to support a bill that operates independent of actual circumstances. But I'll just leave. I'll leave it to that. I can't support this bill.
Representative Carney.
Just a question to the bill's sponsor. My understanding of these districts like this that are monitored is only during school hours.
Yes, I believe that is the speed limit is only actionable during school hours. So I think if helpful, we could definitely clarify that as it moves forward. But the speed limit decreases to that limit just in the amount of time that school hours are arrival and dismissal time. So it's only for a specific period of the day.
So just to follow up.
Follow up.
So you want to clarify, I mean, I think a lot of us would like the clarification.
Sure.
If it is speeders going by the school, not in school hours, are they going to be, will that camera be activated non-school hours? Okay.
Kellett Wade, Legislative Analysis. No, it would only be pursuant to 20-141.1, which is the speed limit set during school hours.
Thank you.
Representative Warren.
Thank you. I realize you have a hard time turning to the left. It's hard to get your attention.
There's a reason for that.
No doubt. So a question for the bill sponsor, I guess. So on the pilot program, currently and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently if someone's cited for exceeding the speed limit in the school district, they not only get this, the penalty of $250, but if convicted, they have points assigned against their, they have points assigned to them as well. But this pilot program would not cite the points, is that correct? I mean, you're kind of lessening the penalty?
I'll go to staff.
Kellett Wade Legislative Analysis. So the 20-141.1 violation is an infraction, so it would be a criminal violation with $250 penalty. This is a civil penalty and does not include any driver's license points or insurance points.
Follow it.
Thank you. So, again, to staff, so, but currently you can get both, the civil penalty and the criminal penalty, correct? And under this pilot program, it's not charging both, you're only getting the criminal penalty. Is that the way I understand that, according to the bill's summary?
Civil somebody else has to touch it. Kellett Wade Legislative Analysis. This pilot program would only be a civil penalty. The 20-141.1 is an infraction criminal penalty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for directing your attention to the center, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the bill sponsor, if I might. Representative Clevens, or perhaps you may need to refer to staff. How are the proceeds from violations allocated? And specifically, I'm interested in how much the operator or the provider of the camera system receives from each instance.
Yes, so in Section 13, the City of Greensboro and Guilford County Schools would have an agreement that just the cost for operating it would go to the City of Greensboro, and the rest would be going to Guilford County Schools.
Follow up. So does that mean that any cost or any monies paid to the vendor, the operator of the provider of the camera, comes out of the City of Greensboro's portion of the pie, I guess?
Correct.
Do we know how much that is?
I do not know how much they would charge for the camera equipment, Joe. No, I do not know how much that is.
All right, thank you.
I'll be honest, I'm going to be voting against this bill because my understanding is that this supplants the criminal penalty for a civil penalty, and it's a money-making thing. And I just think that it's serious when people violate the law and speed through areas. But this and red light cameras and things like that are a perverse incentive in our laws that incentivize giving out tickets. And I think it goes against the due process rights of people. There's implementations, and I think this is an effort to raise money. And I think it's the wrong way to raise money on the back of civil penalties when we already have an explicit moving violation infraction that's already there. And so I'll be no against the bill.
Okay, Representative Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Representative Harp's outlook, but I find it interesting that if someone ignores a civil citation, after 30 days, they're going to fine them give another civil penalty of $125. And if they ignore that, well, they're going to have them arrested. I have a lot of problems with this. I'm not finished, Mr. Chairman. If a police officer issues a citation, the city of Greenville says, okay, you're good. And if a civil penalty has been paid, the city will pay back the civil penalty penalty. Just the way it's structured, I have a problem with. I can't support it.
Representative Cleveland, this is Greensboro, though, not Greenville.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Greenville.
I always get,
Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple points. I think first on the cost, I think similar to what we pursued in Durham, staff and the bill sponsor were correct that the costs are covered, by the local jurisdictions. And just generally, the need for this, I think, is really serious. I think the rate of speeding in our school zones is a real problem, likely in many of our communities. And, our local jurisdictions don't have the capacity without this kind of assistance to curb that and to monitor folks' speed in our school zones. Our school zones have lowered speed limits for a reason, and unfortunately, our drivers are not abiding by it. And so I think this is a narrowly tailored solution to a serious problem in our school zones. So just wanted to add that, and I'll renew my motion.
Thank you. Representative Loftus.
Not me.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to maybe ask staff a question, if that's fine. Okay. I just want to clarify, there's been a lot of talk about the penalties and whether this is taking something that's already a criminal infraction and turning it into a civil fund. I think the phrase was used, revenue generating exercise. I think, is it right in the summary it says that 20-141.1 already has a penalty of $250 and this doesn't increase that, it's the same, and also it already has a civil and criminal aspect to it, and this bill, my reading of it, keeps that the same. Like Section 5 says, except as provided in Section 10, this is a violation of the speed limit pursuant to 20-141.1. So it's still 20.141.1 is still in effect. I know that's a long question, but let me just rephrase it again. This is not superseding or getting rid of the criminal infraction or increasing the penalty from 20-141.1. Is that right?
Kellett Wade legislative analysis. That's correct. So a person could still be assessed a criminal violation decided by an officer physically located at in the school zone. If that were to occur, then the civil penalty associated with this pilot program would not be applicable, would be refunded if it had already been paid. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question. Both civil and criminal consequences for speeding in a school zone during school drop-off or pickup times, which as a parent I can tell you is appropriate. I think the only thing I see that this bill adds to that is that it has a temporary pilot period where there will be conspicuous cameras as a deterrent to help, because it's better to deter that speeding rather than try to arrest on the back end. As a parent, it makes me more comfortable to see that deterrent on the front end rather than trying to punish someone on the back end. So I support the bill and appreciate the sponsors.
To follow up with my comments, a camera is not a deterrent for a speeder in a school zone. A police car or a police officer is a deterrent to speeding in a school zone. If you have a real problem, that's the way to solve it. The camera simply is a way of harvesting penalties. I would go on to say this. My wife and I were president of PTA of a very popular elementary school in Hickory, and we had a problem with the intersection outside of the school. And the way we solved that problem was we elevated the intersection by about 2 inches and embossed it with a brick kind of a embossment and painted it red. It became more or less a point of understanding that this is a school zone, slow down, and it worked. It's permanent, it's a deterrent, and it's still there 25 years later. There are better ways of solving problems than putting up cameras, and I continue to oppose the bill.
At this time, I'd like to make special recognition. Representative Sain has got some school board members from his county here, or they were here, And you stand up and let us recognize you. It's good to have you with us today. And, of course, this topic's right up your alley, I'm sure, when we're talking about school zones. It's good to have you visiting with us today in the General Assembly. Representative Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak to the bill here. And I understand the spirit of the bill, and as a parent, 2 children, I understand the gravity of the situation. But one thing that I think we keep overlooking, and I know we have Instagram and TikTok and all that, but we're requiring photos of children unknowingly. When you're taking pictures in those zones, you're taking pictures of children that are unknowingly getting their picture made, and a lot of parents are going to be opposed to that. They don't like Big Brother looking down now, and that's definitely a parent's decision whether they allow their kids to have social media and have their picture made. And you're going to be taking pictures there of people's children, kindergartners, first grade, and they're without their consent. And I think we need to take that in consideration when we're thinking about taking pictures in school zones, who we're taking pictures of. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I make a couple of response comments?
You may, and you may also, if you'd like, withdraw the bill, is that appropriate term, and do some more work on it. But anyway, Representative Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there'll be a rebuttal for whatever, but of course I support police units in an area I used to write tickets in the school zone. But there's also speeding through school zones is not allowed, not even for law enforcement. I remember one time I was running and I had to hit those blue lights and turn them off when I came to that school zone. So not even law enforcement can speed through a school zone. So that could hinder the situation. Cameras, this is nothing new. Cameras have been used before, and I know they were stopped at one time because they were not giving the money to the school system. And the HITS unit at CMPD had a very active camera program that they were using. And let's keep in mind, cameras, we was talking about the children. Cameras are used on the school buses to monitor the situation that's going on. And we just had a really bad situation where, a school bus driver was attacked on a school bus, and that was picked up. So they're used everywhere. And we're having children hit a lot in school crossings, and people are not paying attention to the school crossings and the speed limits, and even the crossing guards, they're running past them. I have a very active one near my house, and they're running right past the school crossing guard, and they're not paying attention. So we need to try something to try to bring these people, motorists under control. And I'm not saying this is the perfect idea, but it's something to try for people to pay more attention to the children getting out the buses and people trying to get their children to school safely. And I do support it because, like I said, I just love, and I do try to support safety on the highways. And I thank you for allowing me to speak on it.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Clemens.
Yes, thank you. So I think what Representative Adams said is correct. The best deterrent would be if there could be a police car in every school zone. When Representative Faircloth Hardister and I met with the Greensboro Police Department, their concern is that they have so many openings that they can't even address the crises that are in front of them. So they feel unable to monitor our school zones in a way that they feel is keeping students safe. So that is at the crux of where this request is coming from, their concerns. And so I just asked Representative Faircloth, who we talked about this at length before working on it. And so he and I will take some of these concerns back and see if we can make some adjustments to the time and some of the other concerns brought here and try to bring it forth again.
Yeah. Thank you. Our time is almost up. So, so do you want to have the bill voted on in transportation? Or do you want to bring it back?
I believe we would like to work on some of the concerns and bring it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that fine with committee? It's fine with the chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. thank you all for being here today. It's been a good meeting, and I knew that was going to be a problem when it went to J2.
You see in front of us isn't just because Senator Woodard and McGinnis and Mayfield and Salvador and Lazar sat in a room and thought this was going to be a good idea. This bill actually represents your work, a work of a bipartisan group that were put together to come up with ideas about how we can have sustainable funding for North Carolina future. You see, we are facing a fiscal cliff when it comes to transportation funding, and it takes political courage to put these ideas out here. So I ask for you, committee members, as you review these considerations, understand that these weren't our ideas, these were North Carolinians' ideas. And these ideas are represented about how we move forward to sustain our transportation and to honor the commitments that the Board of Transportation has made to our constituents. $8 billion underfunded in the STI program, possibly $70 billion underfunded in the next 10 years for road maintenance. We have to be honest about how we're going to fund these. And one industry, we cannot pick one industry over another. So this is our second iteration of NC10 and our suggestions about how we continue to move the ball forward so that we can make and honor the commitments that have already been made. So in that vein, that's why you see these two gentlemen behind us, and I want to commend the work from Mayfield and all of our other folks who are here in the audience in support of this. The first part of the bill is electric and hybrid EV fees. Again, this is nothing new to this General Assembly body, but if you would like to, one of our biggest pushes was this is one part of the bill. It's not the only part of the bill. As Senator McGinnis will tell you, the idea is that everybody gets a haircut, but nobody gets scalped. The second part of it is remove the highway use tax cap for certain vehicles. Now, if you're a part of this committee meeting, you'll see that that was one of a lot of ideas around the highway use tax. In fact, our committee voted to actually remove the net trade exemption. That's not part of this bill. If we were to move the net trade exemption, that's about $180 million for the Department of Transportation. That was politically too hard to get across the line, so that's why I included this portion in this bill. Then we wanted to enact tax on transportation services. So if you get an Uber or a Lyft ride or a ride share, then there is a pass-through fee, just like the state of Georgia does. That's commerce that's being conducted on our roads, and that should be a part and pay into our system. Lastly, we need to have conversations about private-public partnerships around road construction, especially in my district. That's not very politically popular, but again, this is about being courageous and having these hard conversations about how we're going to build roads, not running around and being afraid to have these conversations. And so to that, I commend the bill to you and stand for any questions. Thank you. And if any of my co-sponsors would like to speak, thank you.
Okay, you've heard the presentation. Anybody like to talk on the bill, question on the bill, or make comments on the bill? See Senator Murdoch first down there.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's hard to see way back here. So
it is,
thank
especially
you
when
so
you got these old eyes. That's the problem.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for the bipartisan work that went into this Senate bill. And it may have already been resolved because, Senator Sawyer, I know you met with that group the same day. So I did have a question for the first page of the bill, Section 2, under the remove vehicle purchase tax cap. The removal of that maximum tax of the $2,000 for each certificate of title. And I think the organization that represents some of those truckers today are here. But bringing it up, since their concern was that it would impact some of their, the smaller trucking businesses, not the ones that have huge fleets of, the ones that have 2, 3, 10 trucks. So just wanted to know any progress on will that remain, or where there'll be time to update that before it hits the Senate floor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Senator, for that. We are absolutely open. This is not etched in stone. And as someone who is a small business owner myself, I get that regulatory burdens, and that is not my intention. Again, the intention in talking about this highway use tax and keeping a part of the conversation is that we do need to look at our dealers and say, you've got to be a part of this game as well. And that is around the highway use tax discussion, because the other stuff wasn't attainable. That's why I chose to put this portion in there, because we need to continue to keep the ball moving forward, especially when we talk about the highway use tax or net trade exemption. So that was part of this conversation. In no way is it to pick one industry over the other, and happily we'll review and make changes to this legislation. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay, Senator Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the bill sponsors and everyone who worked on this piece of legislation. It is impressive to have something that's this comprehensive in thinking, and it is impressive to have something that has so much bipartisan work in it. My comments are really about the bigger picture related to the bill, maybe one small piece about the bill. I think that getting the revenue side of what we're doing on transportation right is incredibly important. I just want us all to think about the way that the revenue side of transportation is inherently linked to the appropriations and spending side as well. What we choose to spend our transportation dollars on actually has a huge impact on how much revenue we get when our revenue is based on any type of fuel consumption. If we build longer roads and have people drive farther, then we're going to get more tax revenue back. On the other hand, if we build more densely that has other benefits besides tax revenue, we get less tax revenue. So I want us to be thinking about what are the decisions that we make over the long run about the types of communities that we want to build and the types of transportation that we want to have. And I hope that those decisions that we make will essentially mirror what we're doing on the economic side of building a new transportation manufacturing industry in this state, where we're going to be building the cars and trucks and components thereof that move us into an electric vehicle future, which give us the chance to have huge economic benefit while still addressing our climate crisis and reducing overall vehicle emissions, making our communities more livable. The one piece of the bill that I think deserves to be discussed in that context are the fees on electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. I know that we always want a fairness principle in taxation, and that we believe that no matter what the tax is, everyone has to pay their fair share. I also know that in this state, we use taxes as a way to incentivize the development of an economy and the consumption patterns of things that we believe are going to be good for all of us. And I do think that it's worth considering, do the electric vehicle taxes and the hybrid vehicle taxes have any limiting impact on the development of that electric vehicle economy that we're trying to develop? When we're going to build these things, we want as many people buying them as possible. Thank you. Thank you for the bill.
Thank you, sir. I share some of your concerns. But the cheapest vehicles on the road aren't electric. The people who are buying them now, and those folks who are using their gas consumption on average is $225 to $250 a year in gas tax. So asking an electric vehicle owner to pay less than their fair share actually with this bill, I think is fair. I don't think that's going to disincentivize a electric vehicle owner to not buy their Tesla that costs twice or three times as much as a gas-powered vehicle. You know, I mean, so I'm not sure that I would follow you on that one, but I do understand the idea about how the money is spent. But instead of talking about 10,000-foot view, this bill talks about how we're going to have actionable items so that we can move forward and move transportation funding to make sure that we can have conversations about how the money is spent in the future. Chairman, I think Senator.
You good?
Can I just say one more thing?
Follow up.
Again, I think Senator Sawyer and I are in almost entire agreement here. The only thing that I would say is that electric vehicles now might cost that much, but North Carolina's future in electric cars is on getting those cars to consumers at a rate that everyday people want to pay, the $30,000 vehicle rather than the $70,000 vehicle. And I know we're in agreement on that.
Thank you. Senator Lazar. Okay. Anyone else on the committee with a question or a comment? From the audience, I believe we got a couple of people signed up to speak. If you'd step forward, please, to the podium. You have 2 minutes. Sergeant at Arms will keep score of time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Holder. I'm a consultant with Gannett Fleming Engineering here locally, headquartered out of the Raleigh office, but I also am a board of director with the American Council of Engineering Companies of North Carolina. I'm representing them here today to express our full-throated support of this particular bill and the vision that it provides in modernizing transportation revenue moving forward. Revenue is the lifeblood of transportation. It takes dollars to build all modes of transportation, and this bill will take a giant step forward in continuing the trend that y'all started last year in modernizing transportation revenue and really making North Carolina a continued transportation mecca for the nation. So thanks, Senator Sawyer, Woodard, and McGinnis for your support and the committee's support. And just wanted to let you know that ACEC, our membership, which is 200 strong, 200 engineering companies, is fully in support of this bill and stands behind you as you continue to progress this through the legislative process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Firth. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak? You got anybody else signed up? Anybody else want to speak on the issue? I know we got a lot of engineers here. We appreciate you being here today. Any more? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion on the matter? And the motion is favorable report from Senator Lazar. All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And this concludes our meeting today. No further business to come before the committee at this time.
So Moffett signed it, but Woodard offered it, so I have to get Woodard to sign it.
Yeah, no problem. Good job.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot. Okay. So you need a... Yeah.